Hollywood's golden age wasn't all glitz and glamour. Behind the velvet curtains and silver screens lurked scandal, manipulation, and corruption so shocking it could rival any film noir. Ever wonder what secrets stars like Charlie Chaplin and Joan Crawford were really hiding? This countdown dives deep into the darkest corners of classic cinema, where fame protected the guilty and power silenced the truth. Get ready. Some legends may never look the same again. Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle. Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle was once the king of silent film comedy, a larger-than-life star whose wild slapstick routines brought roaring laughter to theaters across America. At the height of his fame, he wasn't just a household name, he was one of the highest-paid entertainers in the world. Studios fought over him, fans adored him, Hollywood couldn't get enough. But in 1921, the curtain was pulled back, and what was revealed would send shockwaves through the industry. At a lavish hotel party in San Francisco, Arbuckle's night of excess spiraled into chaos. A young actress, Virginia Rapp, became critically ill during the festivities and tragically died days later. What followed was a media explosion. Whispers of scandal turned into tabloid hysteria. The headlines painted Arbuckle not as a comedian, but as a cautionary tale. He was dragged through not one, but 3 grueling trials for manslaughter. And though a jury eventually cleared his name, Hollywood had already slammed the door shut. His films vanished from theaters. The public turned cold. His name, once a box office guarantee, became toxic overnight. The Arbuckle case wasn't just a personal downfall. It was Hollywood's first public reckoning. It revealed the cracks in the industry's polished image. Behind the laughter and lights was a ruthless system, quick to devour even its brightest stars. Arbuckle's legacy remains a haunting reminder. In Hollywood, the higher you rise, the harder you fall. Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin is hailed as one of the greatest minds in cinematic history. With his iconic tramp character, cane in hand, mustache twitching, he brought laughter to millions and changed the art of film forever. But behind the laughter was a far more complicated story, one filled with controversy and behavior that still sparks debate. While fans adored him on screen, Chaplin's personal life told a different tale. He had a pattern of pursuing extremely young women, with one of his brides being just 16 when he was pushing 35. These lopsided relationships stirred public outrage and raised serious questions about the man behind the genius. The scandals didn't stop there. Chaplin was dragged into a highly publicized paternity lawsuit, accused of fathering a child out of wedlock. Though the science of the time was murky, the courtroom fallout cost him dearly, both in money and reputation. And then there was the government. As Cold War tensions grew, Chaplin found himself under intense scrutiny. J. Edgar Hoover's FBI kept a thick file on him, suspicious of his political leanings and global influence. Hollywood's golden boy was now seen as a possible threat. Facing backlash and suspicion, Chaplin eventually left the US and made Switzerland his new home. To this day, his legacy is a tightrope walk. On one side, unmatched artistic brilliance, on the other, troubling personal choices. Was Charlie Chaplin a visionary misunderstood by his time, or yet another powerful figure who used charm to sidestep accountability? Where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments and don't go anywhere. The stars coming up are even more shocking, with scandals you've never heard of. Trust us, the wildest stories are still ahead on Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn was the very blueprint of a silver screen hero. In Captain Blood and the Adventures of Robin Hood, he vaulted across banquet halls, brandished a sword with effortless flair, and disarmed audiences with a single roguish grin. Away from the cameras, however, Flynn's real life rivaled any adventure he played. His nights were a blur of yacht parties, top-shelf liquor, and high-profile romances, fuel for gossip columnists who could barely keep up. Everything changed in 1942 when 2 teenage girls leveled severe misconduct accusations against him. The ensuing trial became front-page news, shaking Hollywood to its core and putting Flynn's gallant image on the chopping block. He was ultimately found not guilty, but the spectacle left a scar the spotlight couldn't hide. Rumors still trailed him like a billowing cloak, tales of reckless indulgence, stormy friendships, and legendary nights out. Even the phrase, "in like Flynn," slipped into pop culture. To some, a nod to irresistible charm, to others a wink at how stardom can sidestep disaster. Flynn's legacy remains a study in contrasts: the fearless swashbuckler who defined an era, and the volatile celebrity whose off-screen escapades exposed the shadows lurking behind Hollywood's golden glow. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was the definition of old Hollywood glamour, the rags-to-riches star who clawed her way from poverty to the silver screen, dazzling in hits like Grand Hotel, 1932, and Mildred Pierce, 1945. To the world, she was the ultimate success story, elegant, ambitious, unstoppable. But behind the polished image was a far more complicated and chilling legacy. The perfect facade began to crumble with the release of Mommy Dearest, a blistering memoir by her adopted daughter, Christina Crawford. The book ripped through Hollywood's golden illusions, painting Joan not as a nurturing mother but as a harsh disciplinarian whose rage often eclipsed reason. The stories of relentless control and emotional torment stunned the public and contradicted every charming image seen in celebrity interviews from her prime. Then came other rumors. Stories swirled that early in her career, Crawford may have posed for compromising photos, images that the studio allegedly buried to protect her rising stardom. Whether fact or fabrication, the story became a fixture in the world of Hollywood scandals. A reminder of how far studios would go to protect their prized stars. On set, she was known to be sharp, commanding, and at times ruthless. Assistants were fired over minor missteps, co-stars clashed with her, directors tread carefully. She didn't just play strong women, she was one, and sometimes that strength veered into cruelty. Though she was never accused of a crime, many believe Joan Crawford's corruption wasn't about breaking laws, it was about abusing power, both at home and in the studio system that helped build her legend. Wallace Beery. Wallace Beery built a career playing gruff but lovable characters, the kind with rough exteriors and hidden hearts of gold. With hits like The Champ and Grand Hotel, he became a fixture of early Hollywood. But off-camera, Beery's reputation was anything but charming. In 1937, the entertainment world was shaken by the sudden death of comedian Ted Healy, best known for creating the Three Stooges. The official cause of death pointed to a mix of alcohol and other factors. But behind closed doors, the whispers told a far darker tale. Multiple reports alleged that Healy had been involved in a violent altercation outside a nightclub, and Wallace Beery's name was right in the middle of it. Some said he and two other men beat Healy during a heated confrontation. No charges were ever filed, no official blame was placed. But the rumors didn't die. Behind the scenes, there were murmurs of a studio cover-up. MGM, desperate to protect one of its biggest stars, was rumored to have paid off witnesses and buried the truth. Nothing was ever proven, but in the court of public opinion, the damage was lasting. Even without the Healy scandal, Beery was no stranger to criticism. Many who worked with him described him as volatile, difficult, and outright cruel. He yelled at directors, belittled co-stars, and used his fame to bulldoze anyone in his way. Whether or not he played a role in Ted Healy's tragic end, Wallace Beery stands as a chilling reminder of how powerful stars and powerful studios could twist the spotlight to hide the darkest corners of fame. Neal. Neal was born for film noir, his stare intense, his voice brooding, and his presence just unsettling enough to make audiences squirm. In the 1945 cult hit Detour, he captured the gritty desperation of a doomed man so perfectly it seemed like second nature. But off-camera, Neal's life played out like a pulp thriller, only darker and far more real. His first scandal exploded when he got into a vicious brawl with actor Franchot Tone, both fighting for the affections of actress Barbara Payton. The beating was so severe, Tone landed in the hospital with serious injuries. The story was front-page drama and Hollywood recoiled. Neal's reputation took a serious hit, and that was just the beginning. Years later, in 1965, tragedy struck again. His wife was discovered dead from a gunshot wound. Neal insisted it was an accident, but the court saw it differently. He was convicted of manslaughter and sent to prison. The parallels were chilling. Neal had built a career playing troubled men with violent tempers, and now life had imitated art. Fans and critics alike couldn't help but wonder, had the roles consumed the man? When he was finally released, the industry had moved on without him. There were no comebacks, no redemption arcs. Tom Neal faded into obscurity, a name whispered only in Hollywood's darker footnotes, remembered not for the roles he played, but for the chaos he lived. George Raft. George Raft wasn't just famous for playing gangsters, he embodied them. With his slicked-back hair, custom suits, and ice-cold stare, he became the face of Hollywood crime in films like Scarface, 1932. Born and raised in New York's Hell's Kitchen, Raft didn't have to study the criminal underworld. He grew up in it. From an early age, he ran with dangerous crowds and formed close ties with real-life mobsters. His name was whispered alongside infamous figures like Bugsy Siegel, and industry insiders suspected he played a much bigger role behind the scenes than anyone dared admit. The rumors were relentless. Some claimed Raft acted as a go-between for the mob and nightclub owners. Others believed he quietly handled disputes for his criminal friends, making problems disappear before police ever got involved. Studios panicked. The idea that one of their stars might be too connected to the underworld was a public relations nightmare. Though he never faced major legal charges, the smoke never cleared. Directors and co-stars described him as polite, even generous, but always surrounded by people who raised eyebrows. His gambling habits didn't help. Deep in debt, he often turned to powerful figures for financial lifelines, only tightening the web of speculation. Audiences loved him in gangster roles because he didn't act the part, he was the part. And that's what makes George Raft's legacy so haunting. Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra may be remembered as the voice of a generation, the man who could melt hearts with a song and command a room with just a glance. Though best known for his music, Sinatra's acting career was no footnote. His performance in From Here to Eternity, 1953, earned him an Oscar and cemented his place in Hollywood's elite. But as his star rose, so did the rumors. The FBI kept thick files on him, detailing years of alleged associations with high-level underworld figures. Whispers swirled that Sinatra used his fame to help certain friends secure deals, smooth over conflicts, and gain access to venues where others weren't welcome. Nothing was ever proven, but the constant surveillance suggested the government wasn't taking those whispers lightly. Then came the politics. Sinatra was known for throwing his weight behind select politicians, including President John F. Kennedy. Their close friendship was the stuff of tabloid obsession. And when it came to light that Sinatra also maintained ties with known figures from the criminal world, the spotlight turned scorching. Some say Sinatra was simply connected, a man who moved easily between presidents and power players, showgirls and shadows. Others argue he knew exactly how to bend the rules without breaking them, using charm as both a shield and a weapon. Robert Mitchum. Robert Mitchum was the definition of cool, a Hollywood rebel with a slow drawl, a brooding stare, and a calmness that made his noir characters unforgettable. In classics like Out of the Past and The Night of the Hunter, he played men who walked the line between danger and desire. But off-screen, Mitchum didn't just play the part, he lived it. But in 1948, the gossip columns erupted. Mitchum was arrested during a late-night party raid, where authorities claimed to have discovered illegal substances. At a time when Hollywood stars were expected to be spotless, this incident set off a full-blown scandal. Headlines screamed, fans were stunned, and Mitchum, the tough guy of the silver screen, was suddenly sitting in a jail cell. For many, this moment exposed a hidden side of Hollywood scandals. Mitchum's arrest suggested that beneath the red carpets and golden spotlights was a world of secrets where the rules didn't always apply. Studios had long been experts at keeping their stars' personal lives under wraps, but this time, the damage was too big to hide. Mitchum served time a few months behind bars that nearly ended his career, but when he came back, he did it with swagger. Whispers suggested the studio pulled strings, greased palms, and launched a charm offensive to polish his image, and it worked. He was soon back in the spotlight like nothing ever happened. Robert Mitchum may not have been tied to organized crime or political scandal, but his arrest shattered the illusion of Hollywood perfection. He became the face of a new kind of corruption, where fame could break the rules, pay the price, and still walk away with a movie deal. What do you think? Robert Mitchum was a misunderstood rebel or just another star abusing fame? Comment 1 to 5 below. 1 means he was innocent, 5 means he deserved worse. Lionel Atwill. Audiences knew him as the towering figure behind Son of Frankenstein and Mystery of the Wax Museum, a man who could command a room with a whisper and make evil look elegant. But in 1940, the lights dimmed, and the real horror began. Word leaked of an infamous party, the kind the studios never wanted anyone to hear about. What really happened that night? No one could say for sure. But when Atwill was hauled into court and asked to testify, he didn't just dodge the truth, he lied. And in Hollywood, lying under oath was more dangerous than any monster on screen. Charged with perjury, Atwill suddenly found himself radioactive. The industry that once adored him turned ice cold. His name vanished from marquees. The offers stopped coming. Behind the scenes, insiders whispered that he'd crossed a line, not just in the eyes of the law, but in the eyes of studio bosses, desperate to keep their golden world squeaky clean. He kept acting smaller roles, quieter films, but the glory days were over. The scandal stained him, and in the moral climate of 1940s Hollywood, forgiveness was in short supply. Spade Cooley. Spade Cooley was once a star with a fiddle in his hand and a smile on his face, the so-called King of Western Swing. He lit up stages and charmed audiences with lively tunes and cowboy charisma, even landing roles in Western films that boosted his wholesome image. But by the early 1960s, Cooley's public persona would shatter in the most horrifying way possible. In 1961, he was convicted in court. The charge: the brutal death of his wife, the result of an attack so violent it stunned the nation. There was no denying it, no ambiguity. This wasn't a scandal cooked up by Hollywood gossip columns. This was cold, devastating fact. Fans were shocked. How could a man known for cheerful melodies and cowboy charm be capable of such cruelty? But those closer to him painted a different picture of a jealous, controlling husband whose temper had long simmered beneath the surface. He was sentenced to prison, and although he sought parole years later, fate intervened. Cooley died of a heart attack before he could ever walk free again. His story isn't like the others. There's no mystery, no speculation. Just a haunting reminder that even the most joyful stage presence can hide a dangerous reality. Because YouTube will prioritize interactive videos, please comment OK if you find this video interesting. Thank you. Clark Gable. He was Hollywood's golden god, Clark Gable, the leading man who stole hearts and ruled the silver screen in Gone with the Wind, and it happened one night. But while audiences fell for his charm, insiders whispered a much darker tale, one the studios didn't want you to hear. 1945, a hit and run. Someone badly hurt or worse, and at the center of the whispers, Clark Gable. No charges, no headlines. Why? Because, as the story goes, MGM cleaned it up fast. Studio bosses allegedly greased palms, silenced witnesses, and made the whole thing disappear. No courtroom, no questions, just another day in the business of protecting its biggest star. And this wasn't a one-time cleanup. Gable was known for living large and getting away with it. Stormy romances, wild nights, bad press, all brushed under the rug by a studio machine that valued fame over facts. And to this day, there's no official proof of the hit and run. But the story won't die. It's become a staple of old-school Hollywood gossip, whispered in backlots and printed between the lines for decades. Was he guilty or just lucky? One thing's for sure, Clark Gable didn't just play royalty, he was treated like it. And in old Hollywood, that meant never having to face the same rules as everyone else. Adolphe Menjou. Adolphe Menjou looked every bit the gentleman, always impeccably dressed, always with a sharp moustache and sharper wit. With standout roles in The Front Page, 1931, and A Star is Born, 1937, he became the face of sophistication in classic cinema. In the 1940s and 50s, the Red Scare gripped America. Accusations flew, careers vanished, and fear dictated who worked and who didn't. At the center of this firestorm stood the House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC, and Menjou didn't just support it, he became one of its most vocal celebrity allies. As a friendly witness, Menjou didn't hesitate to name names, colleagues, writers, directors. He accused them of being communist sympathizers, often without any solid proof, and in Hollywood, an accusation was all it took. Those who landed on the blacklist were effectively erased, no work, no future, no defense. To some, Menjou was simply defending American values. To others, he was complicit in political corruption, using his fame not for art or truth, but for loyalty to an agenda, and perhaps to protect himself. His speeches and public support for HUAC added fuel to a fire that burned through Hollywood's creative core. Years later, the scars remain. While Menjou's performances still charm on screen, his actions off-camera tell a far more divisive story of power used not to entertain, but to silence. Mabel Normand. In the golden days of silent film, Mabel Normand was a star who lit up the screen with charm, wit, and a signature sparkle that made audiences fall in love. She shared scenes with giants like Charlie Chaplin and Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle, becoming one of the era's most beloved comedians. But off-screen, her life played out more like a crime drama than a comedy, one filled with whispers, shadows, and unanswered questions. In 1922, Hollywood was rocked by the sudden and suspicious death of director William Desmond Taylor. Normand wasn't just a colleague, she was a close friend, maybe more. She was also one of the last people to see him alive. Though she was never formally accused, the suspicion clung to her like smoke. Rumors swirled about arguments, secrets, and possible ties to the darker side of fame, including whispered mentions of addiction and financial tension. Then came another headline. This time, Normand was at a party when her wealthy lover shot another man. Once again, she wasn't charged. Once again, the scandal made front-page news. Whether coincidence or curse, violence seemed to follow her name, and the studios didn't like the pattern. Public opinion shifted. The once playful star now carried a reputation clouded by chaos. Her career stumbled. Offers stopped. Mabel Normand died young, her final curtain falling long before the truth about her entanglements was ever revealed. And while no jury ever found her guilty of wrongdoing, the relentless gossip painted her as a magnet for trouble. Mary Miles Minter. Mary Miles Minter had the perfect face for silent film, soft, delicate, and full of innocence. She rose to fame in romantic roles, beloved by fans and molded by studios to be the next big star. But behind the glowing image was a story tangled in mystery, family tension, and one of Hollywood's most unsettling scandals. In 1922, the sudden and suspicious death of director William Desmond Taylor sent shockwaves through the film world. Minter, just a teenager at the time, had reportedly developed deep feelings for Taylor, a man twice her age. When police discovered a stack of heartfelt letters from Minter to the director, speculation exploded. Then the spotlight turned to her mother, Charlotte Shelby, a fiercely controlling figure in Minter's life. Rumors erupted that Shelby disapproved of the relationship, perhaps to the point of obsession. Some whispered she would do anything to protect her daughter's image, her career, or her secrets. While Mary Miles Minter may not have broken laws, the cloud of scandal left her with a reputation she could never fully outrun. She soon disappeared from Hollywood, leaving behind a legacy built not just on film, but on one of the industry's most chilling what-ifs. To this day, the case remains unsolved, and Mary Miles Minter's name remains etched in the darker corners of Hollywood history. Chico Marx. Chico Marx brought laughter to millions as part of the legendary Marx Brothers, charming audiences with his thick, fake accent, quick wit, and flashy piano tricks in classics like Duck Soup and A Night at the Opera. But behind the laughs, Chico's life was anything but comedy. Off-camera, he had a serious problem, a gambling addiction that spiraled out of control. While his brothers built financial security, Chico chased bets, leaving behind a trail of debts and whispered rumors. Hollywood insiders gossiped that Chico didn't just lose money, he borrowed it from dangerous people, possibly those with ties to the criminal underworld. Some said he dodged repayment by doing small favors for shady characters, walking a tightrope between movie stardom and murky backroom dealings. While nothing was ever proven in court, the whispers alone were enough to make studios nervous, and his brothers, Groucho and Harpo, reportedly tried to rein him in, stepping in to manage his finances, but Chico always found his way back to the tables. Chico Marx may not have been a criminal in the classic sense, but his flirtation with mob-linked gambling scenes painted a shadow over his legacy. He's a reminder that even the funniest faces of Hollywood weren't always laughing when the cameras stopped rolling. Edward G. Robinson. Edward G. Robinson was the face of Hollywood's golden age gangsters. With his piercing glare and razor-sharp delivery, he dominated the screen in classics like Little Caesar and Key Largo. He didn't just play the tough guy, he defined him. But off-camera, Robinson was a world apart from the characters he portrayed. He was a lover of fine art, a collector of rare books, and a man of intellect and culture. Yet even sophistication couldn't shield him from the storm that swept through Hollywood in the late 1940s. As political paranoia gripped the nation, the House Un-American Activities Committee set its sights on the film industry. Robinson's name was never officially blacklisted, but in Hollywood it didn't need to be. Whispers were enough. His career stalled, roles vanished, and studios kept their distance. The man once seen as untouchable found himself quietly pushed to the sidelines. Then came the darker rumors, low-key meetings with shady figures, questionable circles whispered about at exclusive gatherings. No proof, no charges, just enough doubt to make the industry nervous. The lines between Robinson's iconic roles and his real life started to blur, and in an era where image was everything, that blur left a lasting stain. Robinson's story is a stark reminder. In old Hollywood, reputation was as fragile as fame, and once suspicion crept in, it didn't matter who you really were. Did Edward G. Robinson betray his peers by cooperating during the Red Scare, or was he just protecting himself? Comment yes if you think he sold out, or no if you believe he did what he had to. Let the debate begin. Robert Taylor. Robert Taylor was the picture of golden-era glamour, a polished gentleman with movie-star looks and a calm, commanding presence. Dubbed the man with the perfect profile, he captured hearts in classics like Camille and Waterloo Bridge, exuding grace, strength, and quiet charm. But off-screen, his legacy tells a far more complicated story. In 1947, as the Red Scare gripped Hollywood with fear, Taylor took center stage, not in a film, but before the House Un-American Activities Committee. There he testified as a friendly witness, naming fellow actors and creatives he believed had questionable affiliations. Whether he did so out of belief or pressure from the studios, the result was the same. Careers destroyed, lives upended, without trials, without evidence, without a chance to defend. Taylor's own career untouched. While others were silenced and blacklisted, he kept working, kept staring, kept shining under the Hollywood lights. To many it was a quiet betrayal, not the kind whispered about in scandal columns, but something colder. The calculated use of influence to secure a spotlight, while others were pushed into the shadows. It wasn't the typical brand of corruption, but it was just as damaging and far more lasting. Though Taylor remained a celebrated actor, the shadow of HUAC never quite left him. His story lingers as a haunting reminder. In old Hollywood, survival sometimes came at the cost of someone else's silence. Gary Cooper. On screen, Gary Cooper was the embodiment of the all-American hero, tall, calm, and courageous. Films like High Noon and Sergeant York cemented his image as a man of principle. But behind the scenes, his reputation took a more controversial turn during one of Hollywood's darkest chapters, the HUAC hearings. Unlike some of his peers who openly named names, Cooper took a more restrained approach, yet his actions still spoke volumes. He admitted to reading scripts that, in his words, contained un-American ideas. That subtle nod gave fuel to the fire, adding credibility to the witch hunts targeting Hollywood's creative minds. To some, Cooper's cooperation, however mild, was seen as a quiet betrayal. It wasn't just about what he said, but what it symbolized: fear, conformity, and the chilling effect of political pressure. While fans once saw him as the unwavering moral compass of cinema, his stance during this era suggested a more self-protective instinct, a move to stay in favor, no matter the cost. Decades later, his legacy still shines bright, but it carries a shadow. Cooper's role in this ideological crackdown reminds us that even the most noble faces of Hollywood weren't always standing on the right side of history. Carl "Alfalfa" Switzer. He was once the face of mischief and charm, Little Alfalfa, the spiky-haired kid with a crooked tie and a voice that could make anyone smile. But after the cameras stopped rolling, Carl Switzer's life unraveled far from the innocent world of our gang. Fame didn't follow him into adulthood. Hollywood had no use for the boy who couldn't grow into a leading man, so Switzer slipped through the cracks, chasing money any way he could, hustling dogs, getting into scraps and cutting corners in backroom deals that no one ever really wanted to talk about. Whispers followed him, stories of scams, unpaid debts, and a guy who always seemed to owe the wrong people money. He wasn't dangerous, but he was desperate. And desperation in Hollywood has a way of writing its own tragic ending. That ending came one night in 1959. A dispute over a small debt exploded into a fatal gunshot. The reports were murky. Some said he lunged. Others claimed it was self-defense. But what's certain is this: the boy who once made America laugh died in a pool of bitterness, long after the laughter had stopped. Switzer's fall wasn't cinematic. It was quiet, sad, and soaked in the kind of corruption that creeps in slowly. His story isn't just about a star fading. It's about what happens when fame burns out and survival takes its place. Number 1, Michael Jackson. Let's kick off this list with a face and legacy the world will never forget. Michael Jackson, the king of pop. From the moment he moonwalked into fame with the Jackson 5, Michael's talent was magnetic. But as his music climbed the charts, his face began to change dramatically. The adorable young boy with afro curls and a wide, beaming smile slowly faded into someone almost unrecognizable. Over the years, his nose became thinner and sharper, his skin tone drastically lightened, and a newly defined cleft chin appeared, reportedly from implants. Surgeons and fans alike speculated about cheek implants, jawline reshaping, and skin bleaching treatments. By the early 2000s, his once vibrant face looked fragile, masked, and almost mannequin-like. The transformation wasn't just physical, it told a darker story. Was it fame, a quest for perfection, a battle with deep-rooted insecurities? Michael once admitted, "I've had no plastic surgery on my face, just my nose. It helped me breathe better so I can hit higher notes." But the mirror told a different tale. Michael wasn't the only Jackson to dramatically alter their looks. His sister, LaToya Jackson, also underwent multiple cosmetic procedures over the years, leading to similar speculation and criticism. Some even believed they were going to the same surgeon. It begs the question, was it genetics, fame, or something deeper driving the family's obsession with changing their faces? Number 5, Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke, once Hollywood's ultimate bad boy and heartthrob of the 80s, now nearly unrecognizable after a long and brutal battle with his own reflection. Rourke wasn't chasing vanity when he went under the knife. After walking away from a red-hot acting career to pursue professional boxing, his face took a real beating, literally. Broken bones, smashed cheekbones, and crushed cartilage turned his once sculpted features into a medical mess. In an effort to restore his looks, he underwent multiple reconstructive surgeries, but the results? Uneven at best. With each attempt to fix the damage, things seemed to get more distorted. By the 2000s, his chiseled jaw and piercing eyes had been replaced by a swollen, almost waxy appearance that left fans stunned. The tragedy isn't just what the surgeries did, it's what fame and inner demons pushed him to do. Mickey once admitted that most of the surgeries were done by a doctor who wasn't exactly the best, adding a layer of regret that still haunts his legacy. Number 2, Jocelyn Wildenstein. Coming in next is the woman the world knows as the Catwoman, Jocelyn Wildenstein, a name that's become practically interchangeable with extreme plastic surgery. Once a New York socialite known for her extravagant lifestyle, Jocelyn made headlines not for red carpet fashion, but for her face, one that seemed to morph into something unrecognizably feline. It wasn't a coincidence. Reports claim she spent over $4 million on procedures designed to mimic the exotic features of big cats. Why? To keep the love of her billionaire husband, Alec Wildenstein, who was obsessed with wild animals. Her eyes were lifted aslant like a predator's, her cheekbones reshaped, her lips puffed, and her face endlessly pulled and altered. But despite the transformation and the fortune spent, the marriage crumbled in a very public and messy divorce. The media branded her the bride of Wildenstein, and tabloids turned her into a sideshow. What started as a bid for affection turned into a lifelong reminder of obsession, rejection, and reinvention. Before we dive in, where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments. Let's see which country has the strongest opinions. Number 26, Cher. Few stars have reinvented themselves like Cher, a music legend, style icon, and master of transformation. From the 60s to today, her face became as iconic as her voice. But over time, that face began to change dramatically. Cher has openly admitted to multiple procedures, rhinoplasty, facelifts, and more. Each tweak sculpted her image further from the natural and closer to a polished, ageless mask. Fans watched her evolve, and critics weren't always kind, but Cher never apologized. For her, plastic surgery wasn't about denial, it was power. A way to control her image in a youth-obsessed industry. And while some say she went too far, she's made one thing clear. She answers to no one. Her look may have changed, but her message never has. Beauty fades. But presence? That lasts forever. Number 25. Linda Evangelista. Once the face of 90s high fashion, Linda Evangelista was untouchable. Her chiseled features and iconic presence made her a supermodel legend. But in a shocking twist, a routine cosmetic procedure shattered her image and her confidence. In an effort to maintain her figure, Linda underwent cool sculpting, a non-invasive fat reduction treatment. Instead of slimming her body, it triggered a rare condition called paradoxical adipose hyperplasia, PAH, causing the treated areas to grow larger and harden. The result left her disfigured and emotionally devastated. Linda disappeared from public life for years, battling shame and trauma. When she finally came forward, her honesty exposed the dark side of cosmetic procedures marketed as safe. Her story is a painful reminder even the most trusted beauty fixes can come with hidden risks, and in the quest for perfection, the price can be permanent. Number 24. Courtney Cox. She was the face of the 90s. Courtney Cox, the high-strung but lovable Monica Geller, stole hearts around the world and became a TV legend. Her beauty was classic, her timing flawless, and her career unstoppable. From Friends to Scream to Cougar Town, Courtney seemed to age like fine wine, until she tried to stop aging altogether. As Hollywood's obsession with youth tightened its grip, so did the pressure on Courtney. In a bid to hold onto her youthful glow, she turned to fillers, Botox, and cosmetic tweaks that slowly and then dramatically altered her face. Her features became more sculpted, her cheeks overly plumped, and her expressions unnervingly frozen. Fans were shocked. The natural charm that once lit up the screen had been replaced with a look that felt forced and unfamiliar, even to Courtney herself. "I didn't realize I was looking really strange," she later admitted in a brutally honest interview. It was a rare moment of vulnerability that pulled back the curtain on the cost of trying to keep up with Hollywood's cruel standards. Eventually, Courtney made a bold move. She had her fillers dissolved. She chose to reclaim her natural face, and in doing so, her identity. But the damage had been done. Her transformation, though partially reversed, became a stark reminder of how easily even the most beloved stars can lose themselves in the mirror. Number 20. Meg Ryan. She was once America's golden girl, the quirky, lovable star of Sleepless in Seattle and When Harry Met Sally. With her infectious smile and girl-next-door charm, Meg Ryan ruled the romantic comedy scene for over a decade. She was so iconic she nearly snagged the lead in Pretty Woman, a role that could have catapulted her even higher. But then, burned out by fame and weary of Hollywood's glare, she quietly stepped out of the spotlight. For years, she remained an enigma until her shocking reappearance at the 2016 Tony Awards. What fans saw stunned them. Gone was the familiar softness of her face. In its place, skin pulled too tight, lips that appeared unnaturally plump, and a puffiness that betrayed possible overuse of injectables. Though Meg has denied going under the knife, surgeons and fans alike suspect a mix of facelifts, eye lifts, and lip fillers. Her return at the 2019 Paris Fashion Week reignited the conversation. What happened to the woman who once defined effortless beauty? For many, Meg Ryan's transformation is a painful example of Hollywood's impossible standards, where aging naturally is treated like failure, and chasing youth often ends in irreversible change. Number 18. Goldie Hawn. Goldie Hawn was once the glowing symbol of Hollywood's golden age. Her bright smile, signature laugh, and girl-next-door charm made her an icon. But today it's not her acting that draws attention, it's her face. After her red carpet appearance at the 2014 Oscars, fans were stunned. The Goldie they remembered, soft, expressive, full of warmth, was gone. In her place, puffed cheeks, unnaturally smooth skin, and a frozen expression that didn't quite match her radiant personality. Surgeons who hadn't treated her still speculated: Botox, fillers, eye lifts, cheek lifts, jaw sculpting. It looked like the full menu of Hollywood enhancements. By 2017, when she returned to the screen in Snatched, the difference was impossible to ignore. Her smile didn't quite move the same way, and her expressions, once effortlessly animated, felt stiff like a mask over the Goldie everyone loved. In trying to preserve her youth, she blurred the face that made her famous. It's a heartbreaking example of what happens when the quest for eternal beauty goes too far. Goldie Hawn's makeover, iconic upgrade, or irreversible mistake? Drop yes if you see a plastic surgery fail, no if you applaud her freedom to transform. Cast your verdict below. Number 17, Tara Reid. Tara Reid, once the bubbly blonde America fell in love with in American Pie, now better known for a cautionary tale in Hollywood's plastic surgery Hall of Shame. Tara was the quintessential girl next door in the late 90s and early 2000s, radiating charm and effortless beauty. But everything changed when she decided to go under the knife. In her early 20s, Tara underwent liposuction and breast implants, not uncommon in showbiz, but in her case, it went horribly wrong. The liposuction left her stomach with ripples and dents, and her breast augmentation caused noticeable scarring and asymmetry. Instead of enhancing her image, the botched surgeries aged her and altered her figure in all the wrong ways. The fallout was brutal. Casting offers dried up, red carpet appearances became tabloid feeding frenzies, and instead of headlines about her acting, it was always about what happened to her face, or Tara Reid's plastic surgery disaster. Her Hollywood glow faded fast and painfully. But here's the part most people forget. Tara didn't stay silent. She spoke out about the failed procedures in the early 2000s, even bearing her scars during an infamous red carpet moment. In 2006, she underwent corrective surgery and later appeared on the Dr. Oz show, candidly warning young women about the dangers of chasing perfection. Her honesty might have cost her roles, but it made her one of the few stars brave enough to show what really happens when beauty goes wrong. Number 10, Priscilla Presley. Priscilla Presley, once the stunning muse of rock and roll royalty Elvis Presley, was known for her timeless beauty and Hollywood poise. But behind the glamour, her pursuit of perfection led to a devastating downfall. In the early 2000s, Priscilla underwent cosmetic injections only to discover later that she had been treated by an unlicensed doctor using industrial-grade silicone, not medical filler. The results were tragic. Her once elegant features were left distorted, riddled with hard lumps and uneven textures. The man responsible, later exposed as a con artist from Argentina, had injected multiple celebrities with the same toxic substances before being deported. Priscilla's face, forever altered, became a haunting example of what can go wrong when beauty turns into obsession and when trusting the wrong hands becomes irreversible. From Graceland glamour to silicone nightmare, her story remains one of the most shocking plastic surgery disasters in Hollywood history. Number 8, Pete Burns. Pete Burns, lead singer of Dead or Alive, wasn't just known for his hit You Spin Me Round. He was also one of the most striking and unconventional figures in 80s pop culture. His bold, androgynous style challenged norms and turned heads, but over time the image he created started to consume him. Burns became increasingly open about his cosmetic procedures, undergoing numerous surgeries including lip fillers, nose jobs, and cheek implants. A severe reaction to a lip filler went wrong, leading to multiple reconstructive operations that took a toll on both his health and finances. He later admitted he didn't know how many procedures he had done, saying, "It's like a car, you fix it up to keep it running." Though many criticized his changing appearance, Pete stood by his choices, insisting it was about self-expression, not vanity. Still, his journey raised serious questions about the pressure to maintain a certain image in the spotlight. Number 7, Amanda Lepore. Amanda Lepore's transformation is one of the most extreme and unforgettable in the world of celebrity plastic surgery. A transgender icon, Amanda became famous not only for her bold fashion and nightlife appearances, but for turning her entire body into a walking art piece. Her goal? to become a living doll, and with dozens of procedures, lip injections, breast augmentations, multiple nose jobs, and even having her hairline lowered, she pushed the limits of cosmetic alteration. But behind the glitz and glitter is a deeper, more haunting story. Amanda once admitted that she started getting surgeries as a teenager, long before fame found her, saying it gave her control over her body in a world that made her feel powerless. Over time, chasing perfection became a lifestyle, almost an addiction. What many people don't know, in the early 2000s she insured her body for over $1 million, proving just how much she viewed herself as both a brand and a piece of living art. Number 4. Donatella Versace. Donatella Versace, often dubbed the Ice Queen of fashion, known as much for her razor-sharp style as for her dramatically evolving face. As the sister of the legendary Gianni Versace and the creative force behind the Versace empire after his tragic murder in 1997, Donatella was thrust into an unforgiving spotlight. Over the years, her transformation became just as talked about as her runway shows. Her once classic Italian features, soft, expressive, and strong, gave way to fuller lips, tighter skin, and a face that looked perpetually frozen in time. Her look shifted from glamorous elegance to something more extreme: plump lips, sculpted cheeks, and skin so taut it often sparked rumors of overdone Botox and fillers. In an industry obsessed with youth, Donatella seemed to become a living symbol of the pressure that fashion places on women, especially those at the top. Critics called her a warning sign, others called her fearless. But behind the bold blonde hair and bronze skin is a woman who has endured massive personal loss, public scrutiny, and the weight of keeping a fashion dynasty alive. Number 6. Joan van Ark. Joan van Ark was once the picture of elegance, a soap opera darling who lit up screens in Dallas and Knots Landing with her natural beauty and emotive expressions. But today, her face tells a very different story, one of obsession, pressure, and irreversible change. Once known for her soft features and classic charm, Joan's appearance has been dramatically altered by a string of aggressive cosmetic procedures. Surgeons and fans alike speculate she's undergone numerous facelifts, rhinoplasty revisions, and relentless filler injections. The results? A face stretched unnaturally tight, and a nose so pinched and angular it bears little resemblance to the one fans once adored. What was likely meant as a strategy to preserve her youth has instead erased the very qualities that made her iconic. Gone is the warmth, the relatability, the natural beauty, replaced by a look many describe as frozen, even haunting. Number 14. Daryl Hannah. Daryl Hannah, once the glowing starlet who splashed onto the scene as a literal mermaid in Splash, captured hearts with her ethereal looks and bold roles in Roxanne, Steel Magnolias, and Quentin Tarantino's bloody masterpiece Kill Bill. She wasn't just another Hollywood face, she was a force of nature, both on screen and off. But somewhere along the way, the natural beauty who once refused to fix a chipped tooth at the demand of Hollywood execs became almost unrecognizable. Her face, once known for its delicate softness, now sparks endless speculation. While Hannah claims she avoids cosmetic surgery unless medically necessary, once calling herself a coward when it comes to going under the knife, many believe the changes in her face tell a different story. And it's ironic, really. The same actress who chained herself to a tree for 3 weeks to save a California community farm now finds herself the subject of whispers for potentially sacrificing her iconic looks in the name of youth. Her features appear frozen, her expressions stiffer, leading fans to wonder if the fight to stay relevant in a ruthless industry led to more than she's letting on. Number 11. Courtney Love. Grunge queen, rock widow, Hollywood wildcard. Courtney Love has never been one to blend in, but her evolving face has sparked just as many headlines as her music and meltdowns. The former lead singer of Hole and widow of Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain, Courtney once admitted to getting a nose job early in her career. But as the years went by, her transformation became hard to ignore. Rumors of lip fillers, Botox, and more invasive tweaks have followed her for decades, each new red carpet appearance raising eyebrows and speculation. Her once edgy, raw beauty has gradually given way to a more sculpted, sometimes frozen look, often criticized for lacking the rebellious authenticity she once embodied. Love herself has spoken candidly about the crushing pressure to look young and relevant in a world that devours women the moment they age. Now her face tells a story louder than any tabloid headline, a cautionary tale of fame, insecurity, and a desperate fight to keep up with an industry that punishes women for aging in real time. Number 21, Simon Cowell. He made a name for himself, tearing down pop hopefuls with a single icy glare. But today, it's Simon Cowell's face that has viewers doing double takes. Once known for his rugged charm and signature smirk, the brutally honest American Idol judge has found himself at the center of an entirely different kind of judgment. In his quest to hold back time, Simon dove headfirst into cosmetic enhancements, Botox, dermal fillers, and rumored facelifts. But instead of a youthful glow, the result was jarring. His face appeared unnaturally smooth, overly plumped, and nearly unrecognizable. Fans were stunned. The man known for keeping it real suddenly looked artificial. And to his credit, Simon saw it too. Admitting he'd taken things too far, he made the rare move of reversing many of the procedures, dissolving the fillers, and embracing a more natural appearance. But the damage was done. For a time, Simon Cowell became the poster child for plastic surgery gone wrong. Number 19, Anjelica Huston. Born into Hollywood royalty, Anjelica Huston seemed destined for greatness. The daughter of acclaimed director John Huston and former ballerina model Enrica Soma, her path to stardom was carved in cinematic stone. With striking bone structure and a hypnotic screen presence, she captivated audiences in the 1980s, earning an Oscar for Prizzi's honor, and forever enchanting pop culture as the unforgettable Morticia Addams. But the Anjelica we see today is a far cry from the Gothic goddess who once graced the silver screen. Her face, once defined by regal lines and timeless elegance, now appears unnaturally tight, her features noticeably altered. Though she's never publicly admitted to undergoing plastic surgery, the transformation is hard to ignore. Fans have speculated everything from facelifts to fillers, and many mourn the loss of her once iconic look. Number 16, Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers wasn't just a comedy icon, she was a force of nature, slicing through Hollywood's boys' club with savage wit and fearless charm. But as unstoppable as her jokes were, so too was her obsession with plastic surgery. She didn't just get one or two procedures, Joan went all in. Facelifts, neck lifts, eyelid surgeries, Botox, fillers, you name it. And rather than hide it, she made it part of her brand. She joked about going under the knife like it was her second job, beating critics to the punchline with brutal honesty. Over time, her famously animated expressions faded into something unnervingly still. The sharp wit remained, but the once lively face behind it grew rigid, frozen in pursuit of eternal youth. She later admitted that not every surgery was worth it. Some, she said, were simply mistakes. Joan Rivers left behind a legacy filled with laughter, boldness, and unforgettable one-liners. But her appearance became a cautionary tale, proof that even legends can fall victim to the impossible chase for perfection. Number 13, Farrah Abraham. Farrah Abraham shot to fame on Teen Mom, where her unfiltered personality and turbulent journey into motherhood made her one of the show's most talked-about stars. But as the years went by, it wasn't her parenting or drama that kept her in the spotlight. It was her face. Once known for her youthful beauty, Farrah has undergone a staggering series of procedures: multiple nose jobs, a chin implant, cheek and lip fillers, and even eyelid surgery to reshape her eyes into a more almond silhouette. The transformation is drastic. The once recognizable reality star now bears little resemblance to the young woman who first appeared on TV. Critics argue she's chasing an artificial ideal, one that's blurred the line between self-expression and self-destruction. Each procedure seems to pull her further away from the image that made her relatable in the first place. Number 9, Lil' Kim. Once hailed as the fierce and fabulous Queen Bee of hip-hop, Lil' Kim's transformation has shocked fans and critics alike. The rapper who once broke barriers with her bold lyrics and unapologetic confidence now looks almost unrecognizable from her 90s heyday. Over the years, Kim has undergone an array of dramatic cosmetic procedures, skin lightening, multiple nose jobs, cheek fillers, and breast augmentations, reshaping her entire face. But behind the surgeries lies a deeper tragedy. Critics have accused her of trying to erase her black identity, pointing to the drastic lightening of her skin and the Europeanization of her facial features. Kim, however, has hinted at the emotional scars beneath the surface, opening up in interviews about years of abuse, colorism, and the relentless pressure to conform to an industry that often rewards Eurocentric beauty standards. Her once iconic look has now become a cautionary tale in celebrity culture. Lil' Kim's story isn't just about vanity. It's a raw reflection of how fame, trauma, and societal pressure can collide in the most devastating ways. Lil' Kim's extreme reinvention, tragedy or triumph. Comment 1 if you feel she lost herself, or 0 if you see a fearless queen owning her image. Drop your number below and let the debate ignite. Number 3, Janice Dickinson. Janice Dickinson was once the undisputed queen of the runway, a fierce, fearless presence who ruled fashion in the 70s and 80s. With jet black hair, bold red lips, and a signature smirk, she graced the cover of Vogue an astonishing 37 times, outpacing even icons like Lauren Hutton. She didn't just model, she redefined what it meant to be a supermodel before the term even existed. But fame in the spotlight often comes with a ticking clock, and as the years passed, Dickinson found herself chasing the illusion of eternal youth. Determined to hold on to her glamours and image, she turned to an array of cosmetic procedures, breast implants, facelifts, tummy tucks, and lip fillers. "I've had more procedures than I can count," she once admitted in one of her more candid celebrity interviews, a quote that became almost as iconic as her runway strut. Her changing face became a hot topic in Hollywood gossip, especially during her stints on reality TV like I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and Celebrity Big Brother. Viewers were often stunned by just how different she looked. Even the surgeons on Botched labeled her one of their most difficult cases, a clear sign of how far the quest for youth had taken her. But in a twist that no one saw coming, Janice reappeared years later with a noticeably softer, more natural look, making headlines again at a Fendi event in West Hollywood. This transformation came on the heels of a 2016 breast cancer diagnosis, which she says completely reshaped how she saw herself. "Real beauty comes from strength," she shared. For someone who once lived at the center of countless Hollywood scandals, it may be her quietest moment that speaks the loudest. Number 15, Jennifer Grey. Jennifer Grey became America's sweetheart overnight after starring as Baby in Dirty Dancing, 1987. With her curly hair and unmistakable nose, she had a look that stood out, natural, real, and refreshing. But Hollywood's obsession with perfection caught up with her. In a decision that would haunt her career, Grey underwent a minor nose job to stay youthful and competitive in the industry. What was meant to be a subtle tweak turned into a complete transformation. The result? She became nearly unrecognizable, even to paparazzi who once couldn't get enough of her. A second surgery followed, due to complications with cartilage, but it only made matters worse. Instead of being celebrated for her talent, Jennifer suddenly became the poster child for plastic surgery regret. Once known for her charm and authenticity, Grey found herself struggling to book roles. The buzz around her acting took a back seat to questions about her face. She once joked, "I went into the operating room of a celebrity and came out anonymous." Behind the humor was heartbreak. The very feature that made her famous had vanished, and so did her career momentum. Despite a resurgence in popularity after winning Dancing with the Stars in 2010, Grey's story remains one of the most shocking reminders in Hollywood. Sometimes, one small change can erase everything that made you unforgettable. Number 23, Lara Flynn Boyle. Once hailed as one of Hollywood's most mesmerizing beauties, Lara Flynn Boyle had it all: razor-sharp cheekbones, piercing eyes, and a haunting presence that captivated audiences in Twin Peaks and The Practice. But somewhere along the line, her rise turned into a cautionary fall. In a desperate attempt to fight off the ticking clock of fame, Lara began altering her face. What started with subtle Botox and fillers slowly evolved into a more drastic transformation. Facelifts followed. Her once iconic features, those that made her a standout, began to blur into something almost unrecognizable. As the procedures piled up, so did the public's reaction. Her face grew tighter, puffier, and less expressive, leaving behind not just her natural beauty, but the very essence of her on-screen charisma. The Lara Flynn Boyle that once captivated millions now draws attention for entirely different reasons, and not the kind she ever aimed for. Her story isn't just about surgery gone too far, it's about identity, pressure, and the high cost of chasing youth in a town that fears aging more than failure. In the end, Lara didn't just lose a look. She lost the mysterious allure that once made her unforgettable. So now you know beneath Hollywood's golden glow was a world of secrets, scandals, and stars who lived by their own rules. Fame didn't just elevate these legends, it often protected their darkest sides. Which story shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to Iconic Inside for more untold stories, hidden truths, and jaw-dropping moments from the world of fame.